just got a whole load worse for Meghan Markle because her sister Samantha ain't going anywhere.
What if the royal fairy tale was nothing but smoke and mirrors?
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
What if Meghan Markle's carefully polished image, the glowing mother, the defiant duchess, the voice of modern royalty, wasn't just exaggerated but engineered from the ground up?
This scandal comes as no surprise. Speculation about the children has been simmering for years.
For years, Meghan has painted herself as the outsider who conquered tradition, the woman who rewrote the rules of royalty.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. I would have loved to have had siblings, so I'm so excited to be pregnant that Archie has someone.
And the cracks are starting to show. This isn't about petty family drama. This is about deception so bold it could shake the very foundation of the monarchy.
And there's a very big difference. It was deliberate.
We're not talking about bad press or gossip columns. We're talking about allegations that Meghan didn't just bend the truth. She manufactured an entirely new identity.
This crisis won't die down until the irrefutable truth comes out.
An identity that doesn't line up with reality, doesn't fit royal tradition, and if exposed, could even affect the future of her own children.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
Because when a mystery woman steps forward claiming she was the real mother behind Meghan's picture-perfect pregnancies, the question isn't whether Meghan can spin another interview. The question is, can the Duchess survive the truth?
Like, why lie? It was just so truly bizarre.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample.
Samantha Markle didn't step into the spotlight to whine about being ignored. She came swinging, tearing down the glossy facade her sister built brick by brick. From the moment she spoke, Samantha flipped the narrative. Meghan isn't a victim of the press. She's the architect of her own false empire. Samantha called out what millions have whispered for years. This isn't authenticity. It's theater. A Hollywood script dressed in royal lace.
If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. You know, this is what it is.
According to Samantha, Meghan didn't just distance herself from family. She erased them like inconvenient footnotes. Every biography, every interview, every carefully staged humanitarian photo op is, in Samantha's words, less reality and more propaganda. Meghan didn't climb into royalty with grace. She rewrote her own backstory to fit the part, cutting out anyone who didn't match the image. Family roots erased, struggles rewritten, and motherhood. Samantha claims it's the crown jewel of the con.
When she said, I lost my father, we knew that she didn't lose our dad. She iced our father.
This isn't a bitter sibling rant. It's a direct strike at Meghan's credibility. Samantha positions herself not as a jealous sister, but as the one finally cracking the mask. And she leaves no middle ground. Either Meghan's truth is real, or the Duchess has been living in a costume so convincing it fooled the world. Just when people thought Samantha's accusations were wild enough, the story detonated. Out of nowhere, a woman identified only as DL stepped forward. And she wasn't throwing shade. She was dropping receipts. DL didn't come with rumors or half-baked theories. She came armed with hospital bills, medical records, and whispers of a non-disclosure agreement. Her claim? She's the real surrogate behind Meghan's royal pregnancies.
I'll tell you why. What she told the royal family, what she told Harry, wouldn't have jived, wouldn't have been consistent with the truth.
According to DL, Meghan's glowing baby bump strolls through the spotlight were nothing more than smoke and mirrors. She alleges that while Meghan curated Instagram-ready moments in designer coats, DL was the one carrying the actual royal heirs, alone, isolated, and silenced. She says promises of privacy and fair compensation quickly turned into betrayal. The royal fairy tale, DL suggests, was a cover-up so polished it erased her from her own story. The imagery cuts deep. While cameras clicked on Meghan's staged cradling of a baby bump, DL claims the reality unfolded in hidden clinics and private homes. Out of sight, out of mind. If even fragments of her story are true, Meghan didn't just bend royal tradition, she weaponized illusion, turning motherhood itself into her most elaborate costume yet. At first, DL's claims sounded like tabloid chatter. But then came the details, vivid accounts of recruitment meetings in California, contracts signed in back rooms, and months of isolation that felt less like a pregnancy journey and more like being locked in a royal vault.
So all of the pictures, my point is, out there were inconsistent with the idea of a real pregnancy.
DL paints a picture that's too specific to ignore. The loneliness of carrying two royal heirs while being deliberately erased from the narrative. This isn't some nameless internet troll hiding behind a keyboard. DL talks about postpartum complications, mounting medical bills, and the crushing weight of being denied acknowledgement. And that's where the gossip turns poisonous. Suddenly, Meghan's glowing speeches about empowerment sound hollow beside DL's version of events. Because if her story checks out, Meghan wasn't lifting women up, she was burying one under a gag order. For years, critics called Meghan the actress turned Duchess, but DL's testimony pushes it further. She suggests Meghan wasn't just playing the role of royal rebel, she was playing the role of mother. And the more DL spoke, the harder it became to laugh it off as conspiracy. Because her words didn't just challenge Meghan's image, they threatened to rewrite the entire royal script. You'd think with accusations this explosive, Meghan and Harry would race to shut them down. A simple denial, a statement, even a quick DNA test could bury the story in minutes. Instead, silence. Deafening, deliberate silence. And in the court of public opinion, silence doesn't equal dignity. It screams suspicion.
And I thought, what is she not contextually aware? She's trying to hide something. This is really sloppy pool.
DL publicly offered to testify under oath, to hand over records, even to open the door to DNA testing. Yet the Duke and Duchess acted like nothing was happening. No explanation, no transparency, not even a half-hearted rebuttal. For critics, that silence wasn't classy. It was calculated. Because if there was nothing to hide, why leave the world guessing? Even Harry, once hailed as the rebel prince, now looks like either a partner in secrecy or a pawn in someone else's script. Did he know the truth all along, or has he been trapped in the illusion like the rest of us? Either way, the refusal to speak makes him complicit. And that's the irony. The couple who built their empire on speaking their truth suddenly found their voices missing. Not muted by the palace, not blocked by tabloids, missing by choice. And that silence may be the loudest confession yet. Royal births aren't just personal milestones. They're public spectacles, traditions steeped in centuries of transparency. Diana stepped out of St. Mary's Hospital hours after giving birth, glowing but exhausted, baby in her arms, proving there was no mystery. Kate followed suit with 3 picture-perfect appearances. But Meghan? She broke every script. No hospital steps, no immediate press briefing, no clear confirmation of where the birth even happened. It was secrecy, wrapped in confusion, wrapped in a PR nightmare.
And when you're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt. And there's live footage of her walking towards camera with her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
Then came the photos that didn't add up, the timelines that didn't match, and of course the infamous folding belly clip, circulating like a ghost that won't die. Critics argue that instead of embracing tradition, Meghan staged her own version of motherhood like a Hollywood production, complete with props and careful camera angles. For royal watchers, it wasn't a new chapter. It was a broken pattern. And in monarchy, broken patterns spark suspicion. What Meghan and Harry framed as privacy looked to many like evasion, and every deviation from protocol added fuel to conspiracy theories already on fire. Because when you strip away the pomp, one question remains. Why did Meghan's royal motherhood look nothing like anyone else's? This is where whispers stop sounding like gossip and start sounding like a constitutional emergency. Because if DL's claims are even partly true, the question isn't just who carried the children. It's whether those children even qualify under centuries-old succession laws. Royal bloodlines aren't built on vibes and PR spin. They're built on proof, on lineage, on transparency. And when transparency is missing, legitimacy is questioned. Tradition says heirs are born from the royal womb, witnessed, documented, beyond dispute. But Meghan's pregnancies, cloaked in secrecy, wrapped in NDAS, shrouded by vanishing timelines, raised doubts. If surrogacy was involved but never disclosed, critics argue it could destabilize the line of succession itself. INT 15.
A royal physician was not allowed to examine her womb. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but if I were pregnant with a royal child, you would want that child in the best care of the best medical practitioners that money could buy.
Imagine 2 innocent children caught at the heart of a constitutional storm, not because of who they are, but because of what was allegedly hidden about how they arrived. And the monarchy doesn't deal in half-truths. It deals in absolutes. Either Archie and Lilibet were born in line with centuries of royal protocol, or the entire narrative collapses under the weight of deception. That's why this isn't just a family feud anymore. It's a potential crisis that could rattle the very institution Meghan once claimed she was modernizing. When cornered, most people clear their names. Meghan and Harry, they call their lawyers. The moment DL's claims began circulating, reports say the Sussex legal machine roared to life, firing off threats to media outlets, warning anyone who dared amplify the story. But here's the catch. Threats flew, yet no actual denial landed. Not once did Meghan or Harry say, "This is false. Here's the proof." Instead, they played defense by intimidation, not by evidence. And the irony is brutal. This is the couple that branded themselves champions of truth and authenticity, building an empire on tell-all interviews and documentaries. Yet when faced with the simplest challenge, disprove the surrogate story, they chose silence wrapped in legal muscle. To critics, that doesn't look like strength. It looks like fear. PR experts ripped the strategy apart. Legal warnings might muzzle newspapers, but they don't silence the internet. They don't silence whispers. In fact, the absence of denial only poured gasoline on the fire, making DL's story sound less like rumor and more like suppressed reality. Because in scandals like this, the question isn't just what's said, it's what's not said. And Meghan and Harry's silence speaks louder than any lawyer's letter ever could.
The palace and the machinery of the monarchy needs to take Harry and Meghan more seriously and make sure that Harry and Meghan's antics don't impact the future of the crown.
Case about whether you think the birth was real, whether you think there was a surrogate, whether you think Meghan was wearing a moon bump. The fact is, Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
Once the silence dragged on, the tide turned. Polls began showing a brutal shift. More and more people were willing to believe DL's story over Meghan's carefully curated narrative. The once unshakable Sussex brand, built on glossy documentaries, high-profile interviews, and polished PR, suddenly looked flimsy, like a house of cards in a storm. Oprah's sit-down, the Netflix series, the speeches about truth and authenticity, all dragged back into the spotlight and replayed with suspicion. What once looked like empowerment now read like performance. Behind palace gates and Hollywood mansions, whispers grew louder. Meghan and Harry weren't just fighting the press, they were losing the public. Insiders painted a picture of a couple under siege, not from tabloids this time, but from their own unraveling credibility. Allegations surfaced of tension at home, of Harry and Meghan living more like business partners than husband and wife, struggling to hold the brand together while the foundation cracked. And Samantha didn't miss her chance to twist the knife. In her eyes, this wasn't karma. It was exposure, the fall of a narrative built on illusion. The Duchess, who promised to rewrite the royal story, now stood accused of authoring the greatest royal fiction of all time. And until Meghan answers, that silence will keep echoing like a verdict. So here we are. Samantha Markle's accusations cut deep. DL's alleged surrogate story detonated. And Meghan and Harry's silence became the loudest answer of all. What started as whispers of family drama has now snowballed into a potential constitutional question, a PR disaster, and a collapse of credibility no Netflix deal can polish away. The Duchess once positioned herself as a symbol of truth, resilience, and reinvention. But the more these claims hang unanswered, the more the narrative shifts from inspiration to illusion. And that's the tragedy. The fairy tale Meghan tried to control is no longer hers to direct. Every unanswered question fuels more suspicion. Every legal threat without denial makes the silence heavier. And every day that passes without clarity, the so-called modern royals look less like rebels rewriting tradition and more like actors clinging to a fading script. But here's the kicker. This isn't the first time Meghan's carefully guarded story has started to crumble. If you thought today's revelations were explosive, wait until you see the secret Tom Bower uncovered that left Meghan absolutely furious. We broke it down in our previous video. Don't miss it. This is